I left my parents everything in the will, until I read the letter my wife hid from me for 17 years. I found the letter while looking for the title to our car. It was stuffed behind a folder of expired insurance documents in the filing cabinet, sealed in a worn, yellowed envelope with my name written in shaky blue ink. I didn't recognize the handwriting at first, but the postmark stopped me cold. March 2008. 17 years ago. I opened it without thinking, standing right there in my home office with the morning sun cutting across the desk. The letter was short, barely a page, but by the time I finished reading it, my world had tilted sideways. It was from my brother Sam, the same brother I hadn't spoken to since he disappeared when I was 25. The same brother my parents said stole money from our dad's business and ran off without a word. Except that wasn't what happened. Jack, if you're reading this, it means Grace decided it was time. I don't blame you for hating me, but I need you to know the truth. I didn't steal that money. I didn't run away. I left because Dad gave me a choice: take the fall for his missing funds or watch him destroy Mom in court during the divorce. He had proof she was having an affair, Jack. Photos, voicemails. He showed me everything. Said if I didn't disappear, he'd make sure she never saw daylight again. So I left. I walked away from everything. I thought maybe, one day, you'd understand. Sam. I stared at the paper, my hands trembling. Grace, my wife, had known. For years. She never told me. Not when I drank myself into oblivion after Sam vanished. Not when I swallowed the lies my parents spoon-fed me like gospel. 17 years. I heard the front door open downstairs. Grace was home from the grocery store. I stood there, the letter still in my hand, heart pounding in my throat. The footsteps got closer, then stopped in the hallway. Jack? You home? My voice caught in my throat. I opened the office door and stepped out. She saw the letter in my hand and froze. Where did you find that? Behind the insurance files. You knew. She didn't deny it. Just looked down at the floor, guilt written all over her face. I didn't know how to tell you. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. Instead, I just stood there, staring at the woman I thought I knew. 17 years, Grace. 17. She nodded slowly. He asked me not to. Said you'd come looking. Said it would ruin you. And you agreed? Just like that? It wasn't just that. Your dad, he came to the house. After Sam left. He told me what he'd do if I told you anything. Said he'd cut us off. That he'd make sure we never saw another dime. So you let me believe my brother was a thief? I let you survive. I stepped back. It felt like the floor was tilting. Grace reached out. Jack, I thought I was protecting you. No, I said quietly. You were protecting them. I walked past her, down the stairs, out into the cold morning air. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. I drove aimlessly for hours. No music. No destination. Just the hum of tires and the voice in my head replaying 17 years of silence. 17 years of misdirection. My brother, Sam, wasn't a thief. He was a scapegoat. And my parents, they were manipulators. They turned me against him. Let me stew in grief and anger while they covered their tracks. But it was Grace's betrayal that cut the deepest. I pulled into an old gas station off Highway 90 and just sat there, engine idling. My hands were still shaking. I could barely breathe. I thought about calling her, about screaming at her. But what would that fix? Instead, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in over a decade. The phone rang twice. Jack? Came the familiar voice. Uncle Ray. A beat of silence. Then, my God, it's been a while. Yeah, too long. You okay? Not really. Can I come by? He didn't hesitate. Doors open. Uncle Ray lived in a weather-beaten farmhouse outside of town. He was my mom's older brother. The one person who always looked me in the eye when I was a kid. He used to slip me $20 on my birthday, even after Dad told him not to spoil the boy. He hadn't been around much after Sam vanished. Something about a falling out with Dad. I never knew the full story, but he was the only person left I could trust. When I pulled into his driveway, he was already waiting on the porch. Same old flannel. Same half-empty coffee mug. He didn't say anything, just opened his arms and hugged me hard. Come inside, he said. You look like hell. Inside, the house smelled like dust and pine cleaner. I sat on the couch, still gripping the letter like it might disappear if I let go. I found something, I said. From Sam. His expression changed instantly, like someone flipped a switch. You heard from him? Not exactly. It was a letter. From 2008. Grace kept it from me. I handed it over. Watched him read it, slow and careful. When he finished, he looked up and muttered, "Jesus." "So it's true." Ray nodded, eyes dark. "Your dad was a bastard, Jack. I told your mom more than once to leave him, but she wouldn't listen. Sam. He took the fall to protect her. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because your father made damn sure no one would. He cut off everyone who questioned him. Me. Sam. Anyone. And Grace." He paused. "I always liked her. But if she kept that from you?" "She said she was protecting me." Ray's face twisted. "No. She was protecting the lie." The silence between us stretched, heavy. "You still think he's out there?" I asked. Ray looked toward the window. "I know he is. He called me a few years ago. Said he was okay. Said he couldn't come back yet. But he never stopped asking about you." My chest tightened. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "He thought I hated him." I whispered. "He thought you believed your father. That's not the same thing." I nodded slowly. My whole life, I thought I'd lost a brother. Turns out, I was the one who left him behind. I didn't sleep that night. Uncle Ray offered me the guest room, and I took it, but I just lay there staring at the ceiling while the wind rattled the old window frames. My brain was a live wire. Every memory of Sam, every fight we had, every birthday he missed, all of it felt like it had been wrapped in lies. By morning, I felt like my skin didn't fit right. I got up before sunrise and made coffee in the kitchen. Ray shuffled in, bleary-eyed but quiet, just like I needed him to be. He poured himself a mug, then leaned against the counter. "You still thinking about finding him?" I nodded. "If he's still out there." "I have to." He took a sip and looked at me over the rim. "You sure you're ready for that?" I wasn't ready to learn my wife lied to me for 17 years either. "Fair enough." We sat in silence for a while. Finally, I said, "You said he called you once. Do you still have his number?" Ray disappeared into his office. I heard drawers open, papers shifting. A few minutes later, he came back holding a tiny notepad. He tore off a page and handed it to me. "It's a burner. No idea if it still works." The number felt radioactive in my hand. I stared at it, memorized it, then folded the paper and slipped it into my wallet. "What are you going to say if he answers?" Ray asked. I laughed bitterly. "I don't know. Maybe just, 'I'm sorry.'" He nodded like that was enough. But I didn't call. Not right away. Instead, I drove home. I didn't even know if Grace would be there. But I needed answers. Not through text, not over voicemail. I needed to see her face. When I pulled into the driveway, her car was gone. But the porch light was on, like she'd forgotten to turn it off. Or maybe she hadn't. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The house felt sterile, like a hotel room someone had just vacated. In the kitchen, there was a note. "Jack." I didn't know what to say, so I left instead. "I understand if you hate me. I don't blame you. I only ever wanted to protect you from what I thought would break you. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I've always been wrong. I'm staying with my sister for a while. If you want to talk, I'll be here. But if not, I'll understand. Grace." I set the note down, leaned on the counter, and just let the silence wrap around me. She didn't even fight. Didn't even try to stay. I walked into the living room, sat on the couch where we used to have wine on Fridays and fall asleep to dumb movies. The air felt heavy. Then I pulled out the paper with Sam's number. My fingers hovered over the keypad. What if he didn't answer? What if he did? I closed my eyes and dialed. 1 ring. 2. 3. Click. Yeah. My breath caught. I didn't expect his voice to sound so normal. Deeper maybe. Older. "Sam." Silence. "It's Jack." Another pause. Then, "Holy shit." My throat tightened. I had no idea what to say. "I found the letter," I said. "Grace kept it. I just read it." More silence. Then a low exhale. "I didn't think I'd ever hear from you again." "Yeah, well, me neither." He cleared his throat. "You okay?" "Not really. I've spent half my life thinking you were a criminal. That you abandoned me." "I know. Why didn't you come back? Why didn't you tell me?" His voice cracked. "Because I didn't want to ruin you. I thought if I stayed gone, you'd be okay." I wasn't. He didn't answer right away. "Where are you?" I asked. He hesitated. "I'm in Ashfield. Been here a few years. Running a mechanic shop. Quiet life." "Can I see you? You sure about that?" "No, but I need to anyway." Another long breath. "Okay," he said. "Yeah, come." As I hung up, my hands were shaking. 17 years of silence. And now, a door cracked open. Ashfield was 3 hours away. I left at noon, barely stopping to pack. Just enough to get through a night if I needed to. A change of clothes. Toothbrush. The folded letter stayed in my back pocket like a ghost riding shotgun. The highway was mostly empty. Flat stretches of gray roads slicing through autumn trees, all burning orange and red. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt like driving toward a reckoning. My hands didn't stop sweating. Every 5 minutes, I almost turned around. What was I even going to say when I saw him? There wasn't a script for this. There wasn't a word strong enough to rebuild 17 years of silence. No apology would undo the damage. And still, I kept going. When I finally pulled into Ashfield, it looked like every sleepy small town I'd ever driven through. A diner on the corner, a hardware store with peeling paint, an old barber shop next to a gas station. Time didn't move here, it drifted. Sam's shop was near the edge of town. A squat brick building with faded letters across the top. Ashfield Auto and Body. I parked out front and sat for a minute, just staring. Then the door opened. And there he was. Older, beard streaked with gray. Leaner than I remembered. But still Sam. He stood there for a second, wiping his hands with a rag, like he wasn't sure if I was real. I stepped out of the car. We locked eyes. "Hey," I said. He nodded. "Hey." It was awkward. Quiet. Then, without a word, he opened the shop door wider and stepped aside. "You want to come in?" I walked past him, the smell of oil and rust hitting me like a punch of memory. This was his world now. It fit him in a way the suit and tie family business never had. We sat in the office. 2 chairs, an old coffee maker, walls lined with parts catalogs. "You want something to drink?" he asked. "No." More silence. Then I pulled the letter from my pocket and held it up. This broke something in me. He didn't flinch. Just looked down. "I meant every word," he said quietly. "You were 27, Sam. You gave up your whole life because Dad threatened Mom. She didn't deserve what he had on her. You know that. And I didn't deserve to be lied to." He looked at me, eyes bloodshot. "I know. Why didn't you write again? Or call me directly?" "Because after a while, it felt too late. I figured you made peace with it. That maybe you hated me less that way." "I didn't make peace with it," I said. "I buried it. There's a difference." He nodded slowly. "I missed you," he said. "Every day." I felt something crack in my chest. "I missed you too." We sat there, not talking, just breathing the same air for the first time in years. Then Sam leaned forward. "What about Grace?" "She left. Said she's staying with her sister for now." He looked down. "She always tried to do the right thing." "Yeah, well, right thing or not, she let me rot in a lie." "So did I. You were trying to protect Mom. And Grace was trying to protect you. It's not that simple, Jack." Maybe it should have been. I didn't realize I was crying until I felt it. Hot, quiet, crawling down my cheek. He didn't say anything. Just reached over and gripped my forearm. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't pull away. We talked for hours. Not all of it made sense. Not all of it was comfortable. But once the dam broke, neither of us seemed willing to stop the flood. He told me about the night he left, how Dad came to him drunk and smug, waving photos, threatening court, reputation, everything. How he packed a duffel bag in the dark, kissed Mom on the forehead while she slept, and disappeared before sunrise. Not because he wanted to, because he had to. "I thought maybe," Sam said, "if I took the hit, it would be the last time any of us had to pay for Dad's ego." "But it wasn't," I said. He looked at me. "No, it never is." I told him what it was like after he vanished. How Mom stopped eating. How Dad spun the story so fast we barely had time to question it. He didn't just lie, he performed. Played the grieving father, the betrayed businessman, the stoic victim. And I bought every second of it. "He told me you stole 50 grand, I said. Sam laughed bitterly. "I didn't even have access to that account." "I know that now." He leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. "You were just a kid, Jack. You wanted to believe in someone." "Yeah, well, I chose the wrong someone." We were quiet again. I looked around the office at the framed picture on his desk, Sam with a group of guys, all in grease-stained overalls, smiling like they actually liked each other. I couldn't remember the last photo I'd taken with anyone that felt that real. "You built something here," I said. He shrugged. "It's not much, but it's mine. That's more than I've got." He gave me a look. "You've got a life." "Yeah, built on a lie." I pulled in a breath, steadying my voice. "Dad died last year. Stroke." Sam didn't react right away. "Was it quick?" "They said it was." He nodded, staring off at nothing. Guess he went out the way he lived. No warning. No consequences. He left everything to me. House. Business. Accounts. I was going to split it between you and me, even before I found the letter. He looked surprised. Why? Because I always felt like I owed you something, even when I hated you. He didn't answer. Then he said, I don't want his money. It's not his anymore. It'll always be stained. I understood, but I also knew he needed something more than pride. Take it, I said. Use it to buy yourself a better building. Hell, get out of this town. Do something for you for once. What about you? I don't know, I said. Start over. Somewhere without ghosts. He smiled faintly. Ashfield's got room. I looked out the window. The street was quiet. The light was soft. Maybe, I said. Then I added, can I stay tonight? Sam nodded. Yeah, of course. He led me to a little guest room in the back of the shop. Old bed, mismatched blankets, but it felt more like home than my house ever had. I dropped my bag and sat down, exhaling for what felt like the first time all day. I pulled out the folded letter. Read it again. 17 years of silence. 1 page of truth. And now, maybe, a second chance. I woke up before sunrise, the old pipes in the shop creaking like they were clearing their throat. Sam was already up. I heard the low rumble of his voice through the wall, talking to someone. Maybe a customer. Maybe just himself. The man never did sleep much. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my hands. What now? There was no plan. No neat bow to tie this reunion together. Just 100 jagged pieces, years of hurt and silence, and 2 brothers trying to pick up what their father smashed. I walked out into the shop. Sam was leaning under the hood of a battered Dodge, his hands already black with grease. You always start this early? He glanced over. Only way to stay sane. I nodded, stepped closer. Need a hand. He raised an eyebrow. You still remember how to change oil without setting the car on fire? Guess we're about to find out. We worked in silence. Comfortable, shared silence. The kind only family can have, when no words are needed, just presence. An hour later, the job was done. Sam handed me a rag, and we leaned against the car like we used to in the garage back home. You gonna tell Mom? He asked. The question hit me sideways. I haven't talked to her since the funeral. He nodded slowly. She's still in Wilmington? Far as I know. He looked down at his boots. She called me. Once. A year after I left. What did she say? She said she knew what Dad did. That she hated herself for not stopping him. Then she cried for a long time. I told her not to call again. I swallowed. She knew, and still let me believe you abandoned us. She was broken, Jack. And scared. Dad had a way of making people feel like the only way out was through him. I get that, but it doesn't excuse it. No, Sam said. It doesn't. We were quiet again. Then I asked, would you want to see her? He didn't answer for a long time. I don't know, he said finally. I don't think I could look her in the eye. Not yet. I nodded. Then maybe I'll go first. You sure? No, but I need to look her in the eye and ask her why. He didn't stop me. Didn't warn me. Just said, if you do, tell her I'm still alive. That I don't forgive her. Not yet, but I'm working on it. I drove out that afternoon. Didn't tell Grace. Didn't tell anyone. Just punched the address into my GPS and let the car take me there. The house hadn't changed. Same red shutters. Same rust-stained driveway. Except it felt smaller now. Sadder. I knocked once. It took her a long time to answer. When she did, she looked older than I remembered. Not just aged, worn. Like time had eroded her from the inside out. Jack, she said, voice trembling. Hi, Mom. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. She stepped back. Come in. I did. The house smelled like lavender and dust. Like nostalgia and neglect. She sat on the edge of the couch, knees tucked together like a child waiting for punishment. You found him, didn't you? I nodded. He's in Ashfield. He's okay. She put a hand to her mouth. Closed her eyes. He doesn't forgive you, I said. She nodded, tears falling. I don't either. She looked up. I know. I sat across from her. There was no yelling. No rage. Just quiet devastation. I believed everything he told me. I said. About Sam. About you. And you let me. She sobbed. I was weak. You were my mother. She nodded again, as if that truth alone might crush her. I didn't touch her. Didn't comfort her. But I didn't leave, either. We sat there, the clock ticking in the background. One broken son, one broken mother, and the ache of everything they'd never said. I stayed at Mom's longer than I thought I would. Not out of comfort, not out of forgiveness, but because grief has a gravity to it, and hers pulled at me like the tide. We didn't talk much after that first conversation. She made tea. I drank it. She offered to cook, and I declined. It wasn't about rebuilding anything. It was about sitting in the wreckage and acknowledging we'd both been buried in it. I left the next morning. Early. No hugs. No promises. Just a quiet nod at the door and her whispering, "Tell him thank you for not letting me forget." I didn't answer. Back in Ashfield, the air felt different. Sam was outside the shop when I pulled up, sanding down an old bumper. He didn't say anything when he saw me. Just handed me a coffee like we'd been doing this routine our whole lives. "How was she?" he asked finally. "Fragile," I said, "but honest. Or as honest as she could be." He nodded. "That's something." I sipped the coffee, watched a crow land on the power line across the street. "She wanted me to thank you," I said. Sam grimaced. "Not sure I earned that." "I'm not sure anyone has." He leaned against the workbench, hands in his pockets. "You staying?" I shrugged. "For a bit. Maybe longer. I don't know yet." "You thinking about Grace?" "Every hour." He didn't pry, just gave me space. I think that was the moment I realized. Forgiveness isn't a line you cross. It's a road you walk. And some days, you limp. Later that week, I texted Grace. Just one line. "I'm in Ashfield. I'm okay. Hope you are too." She replied 3 hours later. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer right away. I showed Sam the text. He handed it back without reading it. "That's yours to carry," he said. "Just don't carry it alone." I stared at the screen. Then I typed, "Tomorrow, noon, if you want to come." I didn't know if she would. Part of me hoped she wouldn't. But the next day, she pulled up in front of the shop in the same car we'd bought 6 years ago, back when we thought the worst thing we'd ever face was a leaky roof. She stepped out, cautious. Not timid, but tender. "Hi," she said. "Hey." We walked to the back of the shop, where Sam had set up a couple of chairs beneath a tarp. Shade. Privacy. We sat. The silence stretched like a bridge over water neither of us wanted to fall into. "You look tired," she said. "You don't." She smiled, small and sad. "I haven't slept much." "Me neither." She glanced down at her hands, then looked back up. "I kept that letter because I was afraid. I know that doesn't fix anything, but it's the truth." "Afraid of Dad? Or of me?" She didn't answer right away. "Both." "You should have told me." "I know. You watched me unravel, Grace. For years." Her eyes welled. "I thought I was holding you together." "No," I said. "You were keeping me from healing." We sat in that hurt. Didn't move. "Do you hate me?" she whispered. I looked away. The answer was complicated. "No," I said finally. "But I don't know if I love you the same either." She nodded, biting her lip. "I want to try again," she said. "If you ever can. If there's ever space." "I don't know," I admitted. And that, finally, felt honest. Some days I wish I could go back. Not to change anything. Just to look at it all with open eyes. To see Sam slip that duffel over his shoulder and understand why. To watch Grace hide that letter and know the fear behind her silence. To see my father not as the towering figure I obeyed, but as the man who lit every match, then left us in the smoke. But you don't get to rewind. Only reckon. Grace drove back to the city that afternoon. She didn't ask me to follow. I didn't ask her to stay. We left that space between us open, not a wound, not yet a scar, just space. A place where maybe, someday, something new could grow. I stayed in Ashfield. Sam found me an apartment above the diner. Small, quiet, perfect. I started helping at the shop, relearning things I'd long forgotten. How to listen, how to use my hands, how to show up for someone besides myself. Ray visited once. Brought beer and stories I'd never heard about Mom when she was younger. He cried when I told him Sam and I were rebuilding. Then he made a joke about finally having help fixing up his barn. Even Mom called. A short conversation. Measured words. No illusions. Just a beginning. And me? I stopped checking my phone every morning for Grace's name. Not because I stopped caring, but because I stopped needing the past to text me back. One evening, Sam and I sat outside the shop, watching the sun sink behind the trees. "You think we'll ever stop counting the years we lost?" I asked. He shook his head. "Nah, but maybe we'll learn to live in the ones we've got left." "That enough for you?" He thought about it, then nodded. "Yeah, if you're in them." And that was the closest either of us came to saying I love you. The shop lights buzzed on. The night cooled. We didn't go inside. We just sat there, two brothers under a sky too wide to fill with regret. And for once, no lies, no letters, no wait. Just the quiet promise of something honest ahead. I never meant to stay this long. Ashfield was supposed to be a stopgap. A place to catch my breath, shake off the lies, maybe fix a few things that broke along the way. But days turned into weeks. Weeks into something closer to a life. Grace called, eventually. It wasn't dramatic. No begging, no ultimatums. Just her voice on the line, soft and steady. I'm okay. I hope you are too. I told her I was. We didn't talk about getting back together. We didn't talk about divorce. We talked about the basil she'd planted in the kitchen window. The way the cat still slept on my pillow. Whether I ever figured out how to change a tire without swearing. Sometimes that's what survival looks like. Two people learning how to speak without reopening old wounds. Mom mailed a letter. Handwritten. Pages of regret, memory, and something that almost looked like peace. I let myself be small, she wrote. And you paid for it. I didn't respond. Not yet. But I didn't throw it away either. Sam and I started taking Sunday drives. No destination. Just long roads, good music, and space to breathe. He showed me where he used to park and watch the stars. I showed him the scar on my shoulder from that bike crash he never knew about. He laughed when I told him Grace stitched it up while I cried like a baby. You always were the dramatic one, he said. Still am, I admitted. One Sunday, we ended up by the river. Sam pulled over and killed the engine. The water was high, fast-moving, silver in the sun. I used to come here after shifts, he said. Just sit. Think about calling you. Think about coming home. Why didn't you? Because every time I imagined it, I saw your face the night I left. And I wasn't sure I could survive seeing that again. We sat on the hood of the truck for a long time. No more lies. No more wondering. Just two brothers staring at the river, letting it carry away what it could. You think we ever forgive them? I asked. He shook his head. I don't think forgiveness is the point. What is then? Living anyway. The wind picked up. The trees danced. And in that quiet, I realized something. I'd spent so long chasing closure. I forgot what it felt like to just exist. To breathe. To belong. Not in the past. Not in the lie. But here. With Sam. Alive in the wreckage. And no longer alone. 1 year later, I stood in front of my father's grave. I hadn't been back since the funeral. Not because I was angry, though I was, but because I didn't know what to say to a man who never once told me the truth. Now I did. Ashfield had changed me. Not all at once, not loudly, but in small, stubborn ways that stuck. Sam stood beside me, hands in his jacket pockets. Silent. We hadn't planned this visit. We were just out driving again and ended up here. Funny how the past has a way of circling back when you least expect it. The headstone was simple. Name. Dates. No epigraph. I stared at it, then finally spoke. You lied to me, I said. You broke us. You made me hate the only person who ever showed up for me. Sam didn't move. Didn't interrupt. But I'm not here to curse you. Not today. I took a deep breath. I'm here to tell you I'm done carrying it. The shame. The silence. The weight of your mistakes. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a copy of Sam's letter. The one Grace had kept. The one that started all of this. I set it down on the grave, let the wind catch the edge. You don't get to own the story anymore, I said. We do. We stood there a while longer. Not for him. For us. Then we turned and left. Back in Ashfield, things were quiet. Simple. Grace came to visit once. Just for a weekend. We walked by the river. Ate dinner with Sam. It wasn't romantic. But it was kind. Sometimes kindness is all you can offer after a war. She kissed my cheek when she left. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I believed her. Mom wrote again. This time, she signed it with love. I wrote back. Said I wasn't ready to visit, but I was thinking of her. Some bridges burn. Some rebuild slowly. Brick by brick. Sam and I opened a second garage outside town. I took the books. He took the tools. We didn't talk about the past much anymore. We didn't need to. It lived in us, but it didn't run us. On the 1 year mark of the day I found the letter, I sat on the back steps of my apartment and watched the sun go down. I thought about Grace, about Mom, about the boy I used to be, the one who worshipped a man that never deserved it. I raised a glass to him, and then to the man I was becoming. Because closure isn't a door slamming shut. It's the quiet click of one finally opening.